I recently moved into a shabby apartment on the 6th floor, room number 65. It's not a bad place, however, as it's near the town centre and work, so it's very convenient for me. A few days after moving in, I got a knock on the door, and I looked through the peephole to see a friendly-looking fella. I opened up to greet him, and it turned out he was in fact living in the apartment next to mine, room number 66. I welcomed him in, and we got chatting about work and life. He told me he was still job hunting and had just gotten out of a bit of divorce, so I didn't really ask him too many other personal questions. He told me his name was Greg, and he was a tall and slender man. He was pale and had really short hair, as if he was balding. I guess this did give him a rather skeletal look, but he seemed nice and welcoming. Greg hated dogs, and I have a little Yorkshire teacup called Prince. He said he was allergic to animals and made his excuses to leave, which was understandable. As a parting note, he told me if I ever needed anything, I should just knock on his door, which was nice of him. A few days later, and everything was going great till I began hearing screeching and scratching sounds from the wall. I identified it to being the wall between me and Greg's apartments. I tried to ignore it, but I was typing up some important work for my studies, and it was really distracting. I suddenly began hearing weird howling noises, as if there was a wolf in there, or someone in pain. I headed out of my apartment and down the corridor to Greg's. I could still hear the howling, even from the corridor. I knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. The howling stopped abruptly. "Greg, you in there, buddy?" I said. Nothing. I knocked a few more times before conceding. I headed down to the reception and spoke to the receptionist, Susan. She was an elderly lady in her late 50s and had told me she had worked in the job for a long while in an earlier conversation. I had told her there was howling and scratching coming from room 666, and she said that an animal must have gotten in. I recall thinking that was strange, as Greg told me he was allergic to animals. I headed back up to my apartment and made my way down what was now a silent corridor. The next few days were silent. However, I had tried getting hold of Greg a few times, but no one ever opened up, and I never saw him enter or leave. I didn't really know his schedule, as he had told me he was unemployed. Another week passed by and nothing, until that afternoon. I was walking Prince by the park near the apartment block, and I felt eyes on me. I looked back, and there he was, standing by a tree, dead on, staring at me. It was really creepy and sent shivers down my spine. Even though he was far away, I could tell it was him by his tall, slender figure and that pale complexion. The next day, after returning from work, Prince was nowhere to be found. I called the reception, and they had checked everywhere, and apparently the cameras had been down the last 2 days. I was really pissed, as there was nothing I could do. They kept asking whether I had left the door unlocked, and in all honesty, I couldn't remember, as I leave early for work. That night, I heard scratching on my door, and automatically I thought it was Prince that had returned. I ran to the door and opened it, only to find a collar. Prince's collar. As I looked at the collar, perplexed, I heard a door swing up. It was room number 66, and Greg came striding fast down the corridor towards me. He had a mallet in his hand. Naturally, I stepped back inside and slammed my door shut. He began knocking on the door. It was a calm knock, as if he was tapping on the door with the mallet rhythmically. I was in a state of shock and quickly called the desk. "Greg is at my door with a mallet. I think he's done something to Prince too." "Hang on, dear. Greg who?" Susan responded. "Greg from number 66, next door to me, tall fella," I said, slurring my words as I was shaking. 66? No one lives in 66. Not since you've been living there." There was just silence. I had a million thoughts going through my head. How did this happen? A neighbour that wasn't to be. How did he even have access to the apartment? More importantly, what were his intentions? Susan said she was sending up security, but by the time they had arrived, Greg was gone. His name was probably not even Greg. Most definitely not, in fact. They checked number 66, and everything was as it should have been. It even smelled fresh. I still don't know where my dog is, and I doubt I'll ever see Prince again.